Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Bob Pompeani here with you until 11 o'clock. And if you're not doing anything or not watching anything, give us a call at 412-575-2600. That's the number. You can also hit me up on Twitter. It's at KDPomp. Currently, the game is in overtime, and Kansas City tied the game late in regulation. And right now, San Francisco, on the first possession of overtime, drives in the field goal range. Jake Moody converts, so it's 22-19. With the rules in overtime, San Francisco scored, but Kansas City gets one possession, so they either have to match that or score a touchdown, or if they don't, then this game would be over. But the bottom line is San Francisco won the toss in overtime. They took tails twice. They got it on this one, so they lead 22-19. I thought it's been a very sloppy game. Commercials have been underwhelming to me overall. Just not the kind of pizzazz I would have expected with this kind of game. And yet, there were some big plays for sure. I thought at one point, Juwan Jennings looked like he was going to be the MVP of this thing. He had a touchdown pass on a trick play to Christian McCaffrey and also a touchdown reception from Brock Purdy. Then Patrick Mahomes gets a couple of chances, and boy, you know, I thought the key for San Francisco is early on they were up, and they could have really put a stranglehold on this game, but they could not take advantage of some generosity by Kansas City early in the game, and thus KC had a chance late, and they did convert at least a field goal to put it into overtime. Now they trail, they'll get the ball again. So if you want to talk about the Super Bowl, feel free to call 412-575-2600. But some other stuff was going on today, including the Pirates. During the Super Bowl, they decided to make a headline, and that is Yasmani Grandal is going to come to Pittsburgh as a catcher. He's 35 years of age, and in his prime, man, he was one of the better ones in the game. Still a very good defensive catcher. Injuries have been a problem of late. He's coming off a 4-year, $73 million deal with the Chicago White Sox. So he got a one-year deal, $2.5 million plus incentives, and certainly the Pirates with the injury to Andy Rodriguez need help there. Henry Davis is still expected to do some catching, but I would imagine now that Grandal will be the main man and he won't be needed as much behind the plate, which is something we saw last year with the Pirates as Henry Davis was on the roster and playing outfield mostly, almost exclusively. So bottom line is they got a bunch of off-season acquisitions that are all 30-something players, a couple of pitchers. Now Grandal, we'll see what they can do. They brought in a first baseman, Rowdy Tellez. Overall, to me, still underwhelming what the Pirates did. They're going to rely on a lot of kids in their system, and we'll see what they can come up with in that. I don't know if you saw the golf today on NBC. Normally, that's something we carry on CBS, but because of the Super Bowl, did not have it this year. But the waste management got a little crazy over the weekend. Alcohol sales had to be stopped because people were carrying on like a bunch of kids, and obviously not the kind of look you want. I'm sorry, I'm old school that way. I don't mind people having fun. I've always thought that was a bucket list thing for me, and I still do. But you can't take it that far, and a lot of those people did, and they ruined it for a lot of other people. But bottom line is they played after having a couple of delays early on. And they went down to the final hole before Nick Taylor came up with a big play on 18. He needed to make birdie. He did. He actually birdied 16 and 18 to tie Charlie Hoffman, who just missed a birdie on 18. So they went to a playoff, and Hoffman lost on the second hole to Nick Taylor. Pretty good finish out there. Both guys playing very good golf. But it's Nick Taylor with the win at 21 under par on the second hole of the playoff. The Penguins are coming off a bad road trip, and quite frankly, it's February. I know they have still 30-plus games left, but things are getting tense for them. They are 9 points out of third place in the Metro, which is the last playoff position there. They trail Philadelphia. And yes, they have games in hand, but the way they're playing, man, you need points as much as you can get them, and they're not getting them. They also trail the wild card, second one, by 7 points. Again, it doesn't sound like much, but when you fritter opportunities away, and they did last night in a 2-1 loss to Winnipeg, slow start cost them. They dug a hole. They couldn't get out of it. And quite frankly, the problem with them has been scoring. They haven't scored enough, and I never would have thought I'd say that. Their power play is operating now just under 15%, which is not good, one of the worst numbers in the league. They need to do better because they're a pretty good defensive team. 5-on-5 play has been good, and their goaltending's been good. But the Penguins overall have not been good at all in terms of catching up in that division. They just keep, pretty much treading water where they are. And you got to overcome a lot of teams, and there are a lot of head-to-head games coming up. They have the Florida Panthers coming in here on Wednesday night. That's Valentine's Day, and Florida is a very good team. They beat them earlier, but I'm telling you, you don't want to start needing wins against some of the elite teams, even though the Penguins have proven they can do that. 412-575-2600 is the number to call. We'll take a break. If you're listening out there, give me a call. I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, you're going to see the biggest filibuster you've ever seen in sports call history coming up right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Don't go away. All right, welcome back. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from Jason Mackey, who covers the Pirates and will be down in spring training. Zero issue paying Yasmani Grandal $2.5 million. For some certainty, money's friendly. Worst case, he's halfway decent. Henry develops, and you turn over more playing time at the deadline. Now get another pitcher. And I agree, Jason Mackey was on that after a couple of other guys. Robert Murray's been breaking a lot of these stories, but they do need more pitching help. There's no question. They have it potentially internally, but they're going to have to hope some of these guys come up and really develop quickly. All eyes will be on Paul Skeens, but realistically, don't expect to see him sometime coming up until the middle of the season, if that. A lot of people think it may be later than that. So, it's one of those things that you're the Pirates. You need guys in your system to develop. Now, they have people down there like Roansy Contreras, like Luis Ortiz. These are guys who showed a lot of promise at one point, but at that point, things changed. They weren't as effective. They lost control, a lot of walks. And when you do that, you're not going to survive in the majors. So they were sent back down to the minors. And who knows? Can they reclaim it? You certainly hope so. You don't want this to go without those guys being part of the future. They also need some of the guys who are here, like Mitch Keller, to take even a bigger step, as he did last year. You saw Quinn Priester, but he looked not as good as I thought he might look when he came up here and played. They have JT Brubaker, who's coming back from surgery. I don't think he'll be ready till midway through the season. So they brought in a couple of guys, Martin Perez, and they also brought in Jorge Gonzalez. These are 30-some-year-old pitchers who are okay. They can get the job done. But again, this is a team that's going to rely on starting pitching, getting through the 5th, 6th inning, and then turning it over to the bullpen. The biggest acquisition they've made, of course, is that of Aroldis Chapman, who will be in that setup situation for the closer. But he could be a closer as well. A lot of people don't realize he still has 101 mile an hour arm speed in there. So in the 9th inning at times, when David Bednar is not maybe available, he can be that guy to do it. They also have, Majinski's a guy I really like in that bullpen as well. So they can go, into the 6th inning if you get him there. You'd like to go deeper as a starter, but if you don't, at least you have a bullpen you should be able to rely on. But more than that, they need more offense. They have for many years. They haven't gotten it consistently. I think it's been important that they got it from, the left side of the infield. O'Neal Cruz is coming back. They're going to need him to be what they think he is. Basically, they lack power all throughout their lineup. They're going to have to get it from somewhere. Henry Davis is a guy who can deliver, you would think. Rowdy Tellez at PNC Park, if he gets where he was 2 years ago, he may be able to deliver with some long ball. But in the meantime, they're going to have to kind of claw and scratch for runs, which is fine if the pitching's okay. Penguins, on the other hand, well, they're sitting there in a situation where they had a couple of games this week at Minnesota, at Winnipeg. Now, Winnipeg is a very good team. Penguins just shut them out at home, but they were losing 5 in a row, and you knew they were going to have a lot of extra momentum coming into it. They wanted to win and end that streak. And so they played well, especially early in the game, and the Penguins contributed by giving up a lot of odd man breaks. And when you do that to a team that has Mark Scheifele and others, you're going to be in trouble. And they were down 2-0. They played a pretty good second and third period. But in the end of the game, I didn't like what I saw from the lack of urgency, knowing you're down 1, you pull the goalie, they have the puck in the offensive zone, under 40 seconds left, and Erik Karlsson and Evgeny Malkin are playing catch with it. And you just can't do that when you have to put the puck on the net. And they weren't the only ones. Nobody else is moving around out there. You got to create something and put some pucks on net, and it's the only way you have a chance against a good goaltender like Colin. Now he's skipping my name. I'm forgetting his name. The goaltender for Winnipeg, who's so good. Bottom line is they didn't put enough pressure on him. And if you don't do that at the end of the game with a goalie pulled and you have the extra attacker, Connor Hellebuck. So bottom line is they missed an opportunity. They lost against Marc-Andre Fleury, and that sort of was a karma situation with him. He beat the team that drafted him. He won a couple of Stanley Cups here with. And Marc-Andre Fleury was celebrating his 1,000th game. So everything kind of lined up to that. They didn't score a lot that night either, 3-2 loss. So you have 3-2, 2-1. The Penguins are a team that needs offense. Now you can argue they should, exchange chances, go back and forth or whatever. That's okay here and there. You can win a game, but you can also lose a lot of games because the Penguins are prone to give up those odd man breaks. All right, Brian in Shaler is going to join this program. And thank you, Brian, because otherwise I was just going to keep talking all the way to 11 o'clock. But I appreciate the help. What's up?
Not a problem. With the NFL season coming to an end, I follow, hockey, the Pirates, and the Pens on occasion, but I grew up playing football. What do you think is in store for the Steelers season coming up for quarterback?
Well, I mean, it seems to me that Mason Rudolph, according to NFL Network, has indicated that he may not want to be back here. He may want a fresh start. That sounds okay, except that you're going to have to find one. And I don't know how many legitimate opportunities there are around the NFL right now, especially if you're looking to start. He's going to get good backup money. He'd get that here. I think the Steelers would prefer to have him here. But the bottom line is Kansas City just won the Super Bowl. So there you go. All you have to do is know when Patrick Mahomes gets it last, they're going to win. So I interrupted myself to bring you that breaking news. The Kansas City Chiefs have made it back-to-back, 25-22 in overtime. And again, San Francisco had chances. Anyway, back to the Steelers. If Mason Rudolph wants to stay, I think they're going to try to accommodate him, but he may be, not certain he's going to get the opportunity to start here. He believes he should be the starter. I understand that. He gave, a 4-game opportunity. He showed himself very well. Worst case scenario, he comes back, he makes what Trubisky was making. Trubisky's cut. They move on with him, and then they'll bring in a veteran. A lot of people are talking about Ryan Tannehill, which is something that makes sense given the fact that he was the quarterback down in Tennessee when Arthur Smith was there as offensive coordinator. So, the only thing about him is he's 36. I'd rather have Rudolph than Tannehill, if it's me, for sure. And then I'd rather bring in somebody else, a younger guy, or draft somebody. I think they can do both. But at this point, it looks like Tannehill may be that guy. And as far as anything else, they have to me, come up with bigger plays down the field, pure and simple. Kenny Pickett will be given the opportunity to do that. He's a first-round pick. They're going to try to get as much out of him as they can. And the bottom line is, if he delivers, that'll be fine. If not, they're going to be chasing this quarterback situation for quite some time if they don't bring back Rudolph and if they bring in a guy like Tannehill. Because as I mentioned, he is 36 years of age. So I would rather go that way, and, we'll see what happens. But Kansas City wins third in 5 years. I don't know if you want to call them a dynasty. I certainly would based on that. What a performance, especially late in the game with Patrick Mahomes coming up with a big drive after San Francisco scored in overtime to make it 22-19. He comes up with a drive, and they not only score, but they score the game-winning touchdown. No field goal, because if it was a field goal, it would have continued. Bottom line is they win again, and man, I thought San Francisco was going to win this game. I really did. And they had their chances. They just couldn't convert early on when they had opportunities to do that. All right, let's go back to the lines. We got Bob in South Fayette joins us right now. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Hey, Bob. Hey, I've got a question for you about the Super Bowl tonight. Mm-hmm. Why do you think they didn't run Christian McCaffrey as much? I mean, he's the #1 back in the whole NFL. And
yeah,
I don't know, Shanahan's supposed to be like this offensive genius, and he didn't use his best weapon.
I totally agree. In fact, I made a tweet like that. I'm wondering, all of a sudden he was a forgotten man to start the second half for sure. He's an offensive player of the year. They relied on him in so many different capacities. You saw in the first half, running the ball. Now, he fumbled in the first quarter. Didn't hurt them, other than it cost them some points. But then later, he was on the receiving end of that trick play touchdown pass from Juwan Jennings. And he was largely ignored until later in the game. I thought they should have, when an opportunity to have the lead as they did, just pound that a little bit, take as much possession time as you could. They didn't do that, and they got a series of 3-and-outs. In fact, the first 4 possessions combined in the second half were 3-and-outs. There were no first downs. So Again, plenty of opportunities for them, and they just did not capitalize. Jay in Pittsburgh joins us right now on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Hey, Jay.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
All right, what's up?
Being that the Steelers aren't in the Super Bowl, I was trying to change the subject, maybe to the Pirates.
Sure.
Being that they, they're on the bottom for so long, why not take a chance on some people that have things approved, like a Trevor Bauer or Alex Manoah or even a Yasiel
or a
Puig,
Blake Snell? He's another guy out there. I know he's a former Cy Young winner, whatever. I agree with you. I do. I think, why not? At worst case scenario, you bring them in, and if they're good, you trade them at the deadline if you don't want to continue or you believe you can get more assets to it if you're not in contention. I would do more of that. They're essentially doing that with what they have with some of these 30-year-old guys they've brought in, the two pitchers and now Yasmani Grandal. I would do it with Trevor Bauer if he's been cleared of everything. I would make an offer for Blake Snell. Whatever the case may be, those guys are still unsigned and they're still out there, and we're heading into training camp. So if I were the Pirates, I certainly would be proactive. Blake Snell would help them out a little bit. And what's wrong with investing in a starting pitcher who has that sort of capability? 412-575-2600. We'll take a break, come back with more. San Francisco loses in overtime. KC 25-22. Back-to-back Super Bowl champions for the Chiefs. We'll be back right after this.